Texas Pollutant Discharge Elimination System, TPDES, permit number WQ0016789001. Today is Thursday, June 18th, and it is 7:03 p.m. My name is Daniel Schroeder, and I'm the Office of the Chief Clerk at TCEQ. I will be facilitating the meeting tonight. My role is to keep the meeting on task and moving so that the primary objective of taking public comments on record can be achieved. I would like to thank Representative David Cook for pressing this public meeting, and I'll also like to recognize that a member of Senator King's office is present tonight as well. I would also like to thank any other local officials that are present for coming to tonight's meeting. I'd like to go through the format of the meeting really quickly. So first we're going to start off with introductions of both the applicant and TCEQ staff that are present tonight. Following that, it will be the informal question and answer session. During this time, you can ask questions regarding the permit application, and TCEQ staff and the applicant will respond directly after your question. Following the informal question and answer session will be a brief 5-minute break. And then after that, that'll be the formal comment period. The formal comment period is the time to voice your concerns or make comments. Either the TCEQ staff or the applicant will respond. Your comment and concern is being reported, and TCEQ staff will provide a written response at a later date after the close of the public comment period. So the comment period for this application will close tonight, Thursday, June 18th, at the end of this public meeting. Some quick announcements. Please place your cell phones on silent or vibrate. There is also a registration table available to sign up to be added to the mailing list to receive future notices on this permit, as well as to sign up to speak your comments tonight. The restrooms in this facility are located out the back doors and to your left. And so now with the applicant, we have Jonathan Nguyen, who's a consultant with Quiddity Engineering, and Peter Gregg, who's a lawyer with Gregg Law PC. And then with TCEQ staff present tonight, we have Sumitra Pokarel with the Water Quality Division, Deba Dutta with the Water Quality Division, Michelle Labrie and Mike Lindner with the Water Quality Division. And then with the Environmental Law Division present tonight, we have Marisela Zotuche. And with the Office of the Public Interest Counsel present is Michael McCarthy. And then from the Region 4 office present tonight was Barry Sinclair. With the Office of Chief Clerk supporting this meeting tonight, we have Jen Fernandez, who's running the audio. And at the registration table, we have Rory Barris and Leslie Urbanovsky. Some extra resources that are available at the TCEQ Central Office. If you want to find out the status of the permit application or have public inquiries on the permit process, they could reach at the following number. For the public education program, you can reach them at a toll-free number, which is 1-800-687-4040. So now I would pass over to the applicant as brief comments you'd like to make. We'll start the meeting.
Thank you very much. Again, my name is Peter Gregg. I'm a lawyer representing the applicants in this matter, Mr. Coons and Mr. Frederick. With me, as indicated, is Jonathan Nguyen, the consultant and engineer who has worked with the applicant to prepare the application and ultimately take that application into the draft permit that's been presented. We look forward to hearing your comments tonight. We look forward to working with you to the extent possible and reasonable to accommodate the concerns you have. We do believe that we have presented to TCEQ an application that is sufficiently protected and consistent with state law. We understand there may be some opinions within this room, at least at this stage, that different from that. And again, we look forward to hearing your comments and taking those back ultimately to our clients, the applicant. Look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
Thank you. And so now the TCEQ hearing staff will go over the application review process.
Hi, good evening everyone. My name is Sumitra Bokrail, the permit writer for this application. Also with me, Deva Gita, team leader for the domestic permit team, Michelle Agri, who conducted the standard reviews, and Mike Linder representing the modeling reviewer of the application. Thank you for your presence tonight. This application was received on April 15, 2025. The applicant, James Gregory Kuntz and Kathy Ann Frederick, proposes for a new permit to authorize the discharge of treated domestic wastewater at a daily average flow not to exceed 225,000 gallons per day. If the permit is approved, the Heritage Creek wastewater treatment facility will be located approximately 2.7 miles east of the intersection of Farm to Market Road 1187 and Interstate Highway 35 West in Tarrant County, and it will serve new residential developments consisting of up to 1,130 living unit equivalent. The treated effluent will be discharged to an unnamed tributary thence to Village Creek, thence to Lake Arlington in segment number 0828 of the Trinity River Basin. We conducted an administrative review of the application upon receipt to ensure that all the required information was provided. We determined that the application is administratively complete. We also conducted the technical review of the application to ensure that the applicant adequately addressed all required technical issues to show that wastewater from the facility will be treated to required standard and to effluent limits that will ensure protection of existing uses for the receiving water bodies. Based on our review and analysis, we established effluent limits and conditions to be included in the draft permit to maintain the receiving water bodies' designated uses and to protect human health and aquatic life. A copy of the application and draft permit is available for public viewing at Crowley Public Library, 409 South Oak Street, Crowley in Tarrant County, Texas. Thank you again for coming to tonight's meeting, and we're happy to answer any work quality related questions you may have.
Thank you. And so now Maricela Zatuche will talk about the administrative process and public participation program.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Maricela Zertucci, and I'm an attorney with TCEQ's Environmental Law Division. And so my role is to explain where we are procedurally with this application and what the process is moving forward. So I'm going to go over a little bit of the timeline from tonight, so just bear with me for a second. So the public comment period will end at the close of tonight's meeting, and then within 60 days, we will send out a response to comments that will address all of the comments that you made here tonight, as well as all of the comments that are online. If you want to request a contested case hearing, you must submit comments by the close of the meeting, because your contested case hearing is going to be based on comments that you made. After the RTC is mailed, you will then have an additional 30 days to request a contested case hearing. The mailing will provide instructions for how to request that hearing and what your hearing request should include. The TCEQ commissioners will consider all hearing requests at an open public meeting called agenda. They will determine whether there are affected persons and whether to refer this case to the State Office of Administrative Hearings, which is also called SOA. If this case is referred to SOA, there will be a formal legal proceeding called a hearing, and the parties will submit evidence and call witnesses to testify. After the hearing, the judge will issue a proposal for decision, just called a PFD, that will go before the TCEQ commissioners at another agenda meeting. And then the commissioners will decide whether to accept or deny the PFD. And so finally, considering the number of people that are here tonight, I just want to mention a few issues that are outside of TCEQ's jurisdiction in the wastewater permitting context. So Chapter 26 of the Texas Water Code is where TCEQ is given the authority to grant wastewater permits, and that dictates what issues you can consider in the wastewater permitting context. So unless you're given that authority by statute to consider an issue, we're not allowed to consider those issues. So several issues that TCEQ either has no authority or very limited authority to consider in the wastewater permitting context are things like property value, residential development, traffic, flooding, and air quality. If you ask us questions about these issues in the informal part of tonight's meeting, our answer might be that those issues fall outside of the scope of what we're allowed to discuss. But you're still free to ask whatever questions you'd like during the informal part of the meeting. And I'd like to point out that many of these issues were brought up in the comments online. So if there's any information that I can share related to those issues, that will be in the RTC. So if you have any questions about that, you can ask me during the informal or tonight's meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. And before we move on, I do want to recognize that Representative Cook is present tonight. So the next step is the informal question and answer session. Before we begin that, I do have some simple rules I ask everyone to follow. Please come up to this microphone at the front to speak so that everyone can hear you. Participants should be recognized by the facilitator before speaking, and participants should engage in behavior that leads to an orderly and successful meeting. All speakers should use professional language and conduct, and only one person speaking at a time. To allow time for everyone who wants to ask questions, there will be a 2-question limit. If you have additional questions, you can get back in line and ask more questions if time allows it. And if you do have multiple questions, please ask the first question, allow for a complete response, then ask the next question. I do want to remind everyone that this is a live recording, so please step up to the microphone and speak into it to ask a question. Before I open up the floor to anybody who has questions, a member from Tarrant County is present tonight and has a few words she'd like to say before we start. Go ahead.
Hello. I'm here for behalf of Commissioner Alicia Simmons in Precinct 2. You all are in our precinct, and I want you all to know that Commissioner Simmons does hear you and is paying quite a lot of attention to this matter. Unfortunately, there's nothing that Commissioner Simmons' office can do right now because it's at the level of TCEQ. However, she's listening and she's looking, and she is going to continue to be the voice of the people.
Thank you. So now I'll go ahead and open up the floor to anybody who has some questions. Feel free to come up to the microphone and ask your questions. If there are multiple people that want to ask questions, you will be forming a line down the aisle. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to step by. Yes, ma'am, I have a question.
Yes, first question is, why is a wastewater treatment plant needed? Why not connect to the existing wastewater treatment plant just across the street?
TCEQ. Okay. Jonathan, please, or is the
Yeah, the short answer, and this is set forth in the application materials, they evaluated the availability of area facilities and none was reasonably available, which led us to this application.
Thank you. Yes, sir, you have a question?
Good evening. My name is Dr. Laith Shannon. I am a disabled Marine Corps veteran with documented respiratory issues from my time serving in combat zones overseas. I also have a 5-year-old daughter with documented respiratory issues. We moved out of the city of Fort Worth to the fringes of Tarrant County for better air quality. How will you ensure that your wastewater treatment plant doesn't negatively impact my family?
Citra, can you talk about human health more about it, or maybe? Sure.
Thank you for your questions. Actually, TCEQ is agency responsible for enforcing air pollution laws. And according to TCEQ rules 30 TAC section 106.532, wastewater treatment tanks have undergone this review, and this treatment facility will be activities loss process plant, and it will not make a significant contribution of air contaminants to the atmosphere, and pursuant to the Delhi Health and Safety Codes TSSC, and therefore permitted by law. And this facility will not make significant contribution of air contaminants to the atmosphere. Thank you.
Yes, sir. We have a question.
This is for the attorney and the engineer. Explain to us what you did to come to the conclusion that it is not feasible to connect to city services from the city of Fort Worth across 1187.
I'll give you the broad strokes, and then I'll let John fill it in. We did a 3-mile radius and identified the facilities within that 3-mile radius, consistent with TCEQ's regionalization requirements, as they call it. And we reached out to those 2 facilities and asked them if they had capacity available to service community of them. And they gave an affirmative answer that they could not.
Who was that? Who did you talk to?
Undine was one of them, and Undine's a investor-owned utility, and the other was Mansfield ISA. So those were the 2. One facility, I think Mansfield was right on the 3-mile mark, and Undine, I think, was between 2 and 3 miles.
Okay, well, here's City of Fort Worth, that sewer service is across 1187 was proper.
So at the time of preparing this application, there was no treatment plant that was located across the street. So again, that was at the time of preparing this application.
Well, it's there now. The city sewer's right there, right across the street. And so I would ask that you go and make that application and see if you can connect to that area.
So we appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. You have a question?
My name is David. I'm going to be downhill of the runoff of the plant. I have a question about the company that's going to be building and managing the wastewater treatment plant in regards to their experience, past issues they've had with their plants, and that's being addressed. Okay.
John. It's you talk. So,
Well, I didn't fully understand the question. So is it an issue of operator, who's going to be operating the plant?
Yes, and their experience and how they're going to manage the plant.
So I will let Toffin speak to this, but permit requires, and state law requires a certain level of operator operate the plant. If Jonathan has the details on the level, it's Class C, but I'll let Jonathan or TCEQ review the details of what that means.
So yes, the level was tied to the flow of the plant, but there'll be a third-party operator that will be operating the plant, and that's usually determined. It will be closer to design and construction. That's what we're going to adjust. Third-party operator.
Has it been determined who's going to be building it? The plant? Has there been hired?
I don't believe that's something we have to connect with our client about, and I'm not sure how that yet.
Thank you. Jessica, you have a question? Yeah, feel free to address it.
Hi. My name is Erin Sanderlin Villanueva. My family owns and operates Renco a la carte products. We are at 4285 and 4301, 1187. You're directly adjacent, adjoining the property. In fact, we share over 370 feet of fence line. We are a food manufacturing plant. We've been operating there for 15 years. We're actually the largest candy manufacturer in Texas and in the region. We supply our product to Kroger, H-E-B, Berkshire Brothers, and hundreds of other grocers, convenience stores throughout the South and Midwest. Because we're a food manufacturer, you can already just guess, our operation is subject to FDA requirements, Texas Health and Human Services inspections, customer audits, sanitation standards, and quality reviews. The continued operation of our business and the livelihood of all of our employees really depend on the continued operation in a successfully, highly regulated environment, all right? So for us, compatibility with our neighboring land uses is very important. So my question is, as part of your planning process, how did you evaluate compatibility between this proposed wastewater treatment and any existing neighboring businesses such as ours? It's been there for 15 years, which is a food manufacturing plant.
Here, Jonathan, you raise that.
So on one of the attachments, the USGS map, they're required to locate or provide a location of any park or school or any public facilities in the one map area. That was the only additional requirements from that element of the USGS map.
So when we think of so many things that are side by side, he never does a sewage water treatment and food manufacturing. Is that not a red flag for anybody?
TCEQ, are you able to type a response?
Please.
Well, the short answer, I don't know. I mean, the short answer is that the standards that are set forth in the draft permit that would ultimately be issued if permit is approved are designed to be sufficient and protective of those adjacent land, those adjacent units and otherwise. So I think it's fair to say that the compatibility that you're speaking to is captured as part of a larger process. In terms of specific evaluation of specific adjacent uses, I'll go back to what Jonathan said, that the state law and the regulations, the applicable regulations, require a specific review of those designated uses that would not include, for instance, the type of business that y'all have.
Right. And I think my thought on the matter is it whether it meets minimum requirements. That, to me, it is an expectation. I certainly expect it. My question is more about the compatibility of neighboring businesses that contributed to its community for years and years, if not decades, and what that could do to our business and the livelihood of so many of those who work for us, and possibly to just food quality safety. When I think about things that are side by side, I can think about a handful of other businesses that just don't quite make sense to say it out loud, side by side, and sewage treatment and food manufacturing is just one of those.
Thank you for your question. My name is Mike Linder. I'm a team leader in the Water Quality Division of the TCEQ. And when it comes to, although certainly our permit, if followed, does ensure that water quality will be protected, the TCEQ does not have authority over zoning. That is in either a county or local authority.
I think that it's not so much with water, and then that I'll set. It's not so much water. I want to be clear that there are so many things that could impact. There's odor control systems, because for us, food manufacturer, odor management isn't just a nuisance issue at all. That can create operational challenges. It can affect our customer audits. The FDA might decide we don't have anymore. So I think there's things like enclosure strategies, sludge management procedures, prevailing wind considerations, and many other things that I would encourage everyone to fully review before the permit's approved.
Thank you.
I do. My name's Susan Schoenberg. I live in the Redbird neighborhood. We are in the midst of development over there where there is sewer now directly across the street. So I would reiterate is comment. There is absolutely no need for this wastewater treatment plant because the sewer is right there. My next question, or my first question would be, where is the water going to come from and who is going to be affected by this massive amount of water? Who's supplying the water for this wastewater treatment plant?
I don't know the answer to that. I don't think Jonathan does. Okay, so don't know the name, but there is a water agreement in place. We can follow up with you if that's of interest to you.
The water is a huge concern, especially with all these data centers that people are talking about. We live out in country. We'd like to keep it that way. So yes, I would like some follow-up. But
And I would simply suggest, I don't think there's a higher use of water than residential use, domestic use. Sir, share your concerns about introduce. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Angela Wenger. I live on Bill Levy Road. My first question is to you guys. So the applicants for this permit are Red Cooks and County Frederick. I don't see them up here. I'd like to know why they're not here to address concerns we have if they're coming.
You're right. Yes. The short answer is they would not have the information to provide to you. They do not have the technical information, the process information, the legal information responsive to your questions. If you want them to be available for your voices to be heard, certainly they have been reviewing the materials that have been submitted. I'm sure they will be privy to what is discussed this evening. But from a collectivity standpoint, I don't know. It would be helpful to have them up here assisting in the answering of these questions.
All right, thank you. And then my next question is for TCEQ. Like I said, we lived in the area, this creek, as we say, or the unnamed tributary. I want to know if you guys have evaluated that to see if it even meets the criteria to be considered waters in the state where you would even have jurisdiction.
So I was the original reviewer. The original reviewer is along with the TCEQ, but I am on the same team as that person was. And they did evaluate the receiving the waters in the discharge route, and it does meet waters of the state.
How so?
Waters in the state basically is where there's a bed and banks.
I don't think that's specific enough. I think there's a measurement that's required and a question of navigability.
No, so it is just, there isn't really like a drainage ditch is considered water of the state. If you'd like, I can, like, if you want to make that a public comment, I could go and get you the exact definition of what that is and what qualifies waters of the state.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, we have a question.
Yeah, I also live right across Bill Levy Road. The proposed development, the wastewater treatment plant, the manufactured home area, all of it is in a flood-prone area. We have multiple pictures over here in these boards of flooding, heavy flooding during heavy rains. So my question, what are the dangers, and have you considered the dangers of building with extra hardened surface for those manufactured home built to a flood-prone area?
Peter, or Doug, can I talk about the flood? Yeah, if I understand your question correctly, you're asking about runoff from the outlet itself?
Where we already have floodwaters every time it rains.
Yeah, that's not something we're here qualified to speak to, nor is it something that's relevant to the discharge permit. To the extent we're talking about the discharge itself, or the signing of the facility, I can let Jonathan speak to that. But in terms of sheet flow or flow from the facilities, from the development, that's outside our purview.
What about the wastewater treatment plant? They get left from here.
In the application, there is, it's not required, but there's something we usually do as a company, we do a floodplain map. So that is in the application. It is indicated that the plans is not in the floodplain. So, yeah, that's new.
At drainage ditch, then you call an unnamed tributary floods heavily when it rains. You propose to have 225,000 gallons of water daily. How do you propose to deal with that flood?
That is something that can be captured and designed to account for any additional flooding issues that come up.
Design ditch? Design what?
In designing the plant itself. That will be, like, it's something that can be tried for.
To limit the runoff during many floods. But how would it affect? Because that ditch is going to have a lot more water in Big Hill when it rains heavily. Anything from that wastewater treatment plant is going to flood it back. As that David said.
TCEQ meet the additional to add.
So our rules require that a facility is located above the 100-year floodplain, and other than that, we don't have jurisdiction to consider flooding issues. There is a floodplain administrator, and so if you bring this up during the formal comments, I can get you that contact information of who you would contact about that, but unfortunately, it's not within our scope.
What agency would that person be with?
I'm not sure. Just bring it up during the formal comments and I can get you the information for that person.
Thank you.
Yes, my name is Alicia Phillips. I have two questions here about that. Everybody on the panel, do you live within 5-mile radius of any of the diabetics? And if not, which will be your family base?
So currently, all the TCEQ panelists are representatives of the executive director, so we won't be able to speak personally. So I won't be bringing that up during the full plum conference, sir.
Answer the second part. Would you family?
Again,
You can't answer that?
no, man, that's the TCEQ people here are representatives of the executive director. I'll say would that be related to that question. Thank you.
And you answer it, please?
It's not a question that has a fair answer. Stated differently, it's not a fair question in this context. This is, we trust the process that we are going through. We trust the TCEQ that they are adequately, properly, appropriately reviewing this application and making a decision based on their technical, scientific, and legal knowledge. And based on that, the discharge of this facility is going to be safe and appropriate. I'd ask you whether we would live within 5 miles of facility. I just don't think is relevant. Short answer is I would. I probably do. So that's my personal answer for what it's worth.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Yeah, and feel free to adjust the microphone.
As my understanding with Ms. Frederick and Mr. Kim's, I haven't seen is necessarily the apparent wastewater treatment experience for them. What is the financial insurance flip the BBAC by for equipment function that will undoubtedly happen in the future, 10 years, 20 years, so long, got other fits fire?
TCEQ, are you able to speak on jurisdiction? Right back.
Let's try that again. As my understanding with Mr. Koontz and Ms. Frederick, they don't necessarily have any former apparent experience in running a wastewater treatment plant. They are the applicants for this. With running this, there is undoubtedly going to be equipment malfunctions and things of repair that we need. What are the financial assurances that we will provide moving forward?
Thank you. So they will be the
owner of this facility, and they will be liable for any kind of malfunction, any unauthorized discharges.
Okay, so I'm clear. You have already said they will be liable for unauthorized discharges. Is that correct?
They will be liable, absolutely.
Okay.
But that's why we put some terms and conditions in their permits. Especially for this permit, they will be required to hire a Class C TCEQ licensed operator to operate the facility. And he or she needs to be there at least 5 days a week, and 24/7 they will be available via phone. But ultimately, the owner will be absolutely 100% liable from TCEQ perspectives.
And as far as financial assurances that they're able to provide, or if you're going to have a black box for this, what insurance are they going to be provided in that regard?
That's going to be our enforcement issues, I think. Yeah.
Hello, my name is Claire under the TCEQ DFW Regional Office. We're based at Fort Worth. Regarding your financial liability insurance, I don't have any insurance or finding money they put aside to it. But when we do a complaint investigation or a compliance investigation, if there are any violations, we follow up with those to ensure that they meet those corrective actions. If the violation exceeds or meets certain criteria, then there could be a monetary fine or enforcement where we do a reorder and they're required to complete those actions. If those actions aren't completed, they could be referred to the Secretary of State, the Attorney General's office, where you could go after the through different legal avenues to make sure that they complete those actions.
What's the time frame they have to be able to respond to something like that? What is the time frame do they have to be able to respond to an update of that nature?
Of the time period for them to respond to the corrective actions?
Right.
It could vary depending on what the action is, but in general, we have 30 days to respond to how they would fix those corrective actions.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. You have a question?
Yes, thank you. Good evening. We'll skip down and just open some notes. My name is Jared Williams. I'm a pastor nearby or deposed, uses, attended, and I'm in many of my areas. My family members that live not far from the proposed use. Also have a background in
environmental science, original surface water quality. I have a PhD in environment science, and also served 2 terms from Forest Bee Council, including representing this area in the E2J.
So I have 3 questions that I want to get clarification on, as well as I'll be put up on the record a little bit later. The first one is, for the record, is the proposed facility located within the city of Fort Worth's ETJ, or was it at any point within the city's ETJ and subsequently removed? If so, when did that occur? What was the reason for removal? And how does that history factor into TCEQ's regionalization review? I'll do the other 2 after.
Peter dropped in. You both talked about the former ETJ.
My knowledge on this is limited. My recollection is it was at one point within the city of Fort Worth ETJ. It was removed from the city of Fort Worth ETJ. With the motivation for that, I do not know.
Thank you for that. I'm going to also encourage TCEQ to look into that in your regionalization review as potential cause for not granting as permit. The second question I have is still around regionalization. Given Texas's policy favoring regional wastewater systems, did the applicant request or evaluate connection to the city of Fort Worth's existing wastewater collection and treatment system? If so, will that analysis and any correspondence with the city be entered into the record? If not, why was that option not pursued? And on what basis did the applicant at TCEQ conclude that constructing a new standalone wastewater treatment plant is preferable to regional operation?
Michelle or
You said City of Fort Worth?
Here, I'll read it again just so that it's clear. Bear with me. Given Texas's policy favoring regional wastewater systems, did the applicant request or evaluate connections of the City of Fort Worth's existing wastewater collection and treatment system? If so, will that analysis and any correspondence with the city be entered into the record? If not, why was that option not pursued? And on what basis did the applicant at TCEQ conclude that constructing a new standalone wastewater treatment plant is preferable to regionalization?
Oh, okay. So if there is any wastewater facility within 3 months of radius from the proposed facility, the candidates to reach out to the existing plant. So the applicant, they had resolved to the Ondian Texas Environmental LLC and Nashville ISD on February 11, 2025, and both of them have declined to accept the proposed as volume.
So, understood. And in connection to the last question, since it was once in the TJ, they scholarship also requested this be forwarded as a request for connection, and I'd encourage y'all to consider it as a part of your regionalization review. The last question I have to council or TCEQ staff. Under current Texas law, what authority is to require regionalization or connections with an existing municipal wastewater system in circumstances such as these? If the answer is that current law does not provide sufficient authority, would a change in state law by our state house and our state senate and signed into law about a go-here be a change that's necessary in order to prevent the proliferation of new standalone wastewater treatment plants where regional service is or could reasonably become available?
So, I believe that'll be great.
So we require the applicants do the regionalization analysis that's in our rules. But as far as our authority to require them to connect to an existing facility, that's not something that we currently have. I can't comment on like a hypothetical law that would give us that authority and what that would take. But yes, if we determine that they've done the regionalization process that we have laid out, then that's our regionalization review.
Thank you. Sounds like a new law, Sunil.
Thank you. So, we've got about 14 more minutes until we pay with a Q&A session. Go ahead.
My name is Ann Hartman, and I live at 4209 Country Hill Road, located approximately 1,500 feet from Village Creek in a highly wooded area. My 2.6 acre property is a certified wildlife habitat supporting nesting migratory birds and pollinators like the monarch butterflies. According to the plain language summary in the permit, this facility will discharge a volume not to exceed 225,000 gallons per day of domestic wastewater using a standard single-stage nitrification process and standard chlorine disinfection. However, TCEQ's own water quality assessments show that Village Creek is already an impaired body of water for failing to meet contact recreation standards due to high bacteria levels. Means you're not supposed to drink it and you shouldn't be touching it. My question for the applicants, engineers from Quiddity and the TCU technical staff, given that the receiving segment of Village Creek is already actively listed as an impaired for bacteria, what specific elevated effluent limitations are going to be placed on this permit for E. coli and total suspended solids to ensure this new volume does not worsen the existing impairment? Furthermore, why is TCEQ allowing basic chlorine disinfection and a single-stage process here rather than mandating advanced tertiary filtration or a UV disinfection to protect this vulnerable watershed?
So we start with the first part of that question. Michelle, were you able to talk about the standards for this?
So as far as bacteria goes, there is a bacteria limit included in the permit, which the way it works is that if the bacteria,
the bacterial limit is 126 CFUs, colony forming units, and that is below what was considered the criteria of the segment. So basically what it means is that the water that would be released would have a lower bacterial limit than the water that is entering. So, but like that's the logic that it would not contribute to that impairment for bacteria. And the chlorine is effective at treating the bacteria. As far as your second point of the question regarding why additional it's just advanced, it's unfortunately I can't really, because that's kind of beyond my scope, because it's not a okay.
It's a water quality
So
district. Put extra screens on to catch those things before it goes into this impaired body of water.
Regarding the treatment systems and disinfection systems, we cannot dictate them any specific treatment technology. We have approved technology for disinfection. There are two types of disinfections, either chlorine or UV. So it's up to the applicant which options they go for. But we review whatever they submit to us. We review and want to make sure it would work and it will disinfect the treated wastewater.
It's your organization that said, TCEQ said, this is an impaired body. Tell those guys they've got to go put a chlorine or a UV protection on that body. If you add chlorine to that, it's going to create more algae, or it's going to cut off several major species that live in that water. Your job is to tell them to get a better system so that you do not pollute this Village Creek anymore.
Thank you. We believe that chlorine disinfection system is one of the most effective systems. But it's again up to you and applicant. You can always negotiate or come to an agreement if that makes you feel better, or they can opt out for the UV. But I just say I cannot mandate them to opt one of the treatment systems.
Thank you. And we have about 10 more minutes left remaining of the informal Q&A. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Victor Salazar. I'm an attorney for the Quant Family Trust. I have a question for the applicants about your application. I reviewed the letters that you sent to the 2 wastewater treatment plants that are within the 3-mile radius. And both of the letters say that Scipio Ventures is applying for the permit. I was wondering if you could tell me the relationship and why it says Scipio Ventures is applying for the permit.
I don't know what their relationship is or was when that application or when those letters were being submitted, but the applicants are as the REP are. That's as much as I can tell you about the relationship to that note.
So has there been any contact with these wastewater treatment facilities on behalf of these applicants?
Absolutely.
Where would that be, Docu?
Let me let you submit that comment to TCEQ. It is in the application itself. It's in the technical materials to the extent that you and your client have a disagreement with how that was done, that we invite you to seek TCEQ's response to that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir. You have a question.
Seth Goopsey, I'm owner of Whitestone Engineering and Environmental. I frequently visit this area, this property that we're talking about. One of the properties frequently visited by myself and my family. In fact, my youngest son used to work on the property for years. My question to TCEQ: how many spills are unauthorized discharges are reported to TCEQ overall, and then from wastewater treatment plants? Does anybody have an idea in the state of Texas, just a ballpark number? Does anybody have any idea how many spills and unauthorized discharges are reported to TCEQ every year?
Is that something that you guys would know?
No, it's about, oh, go ahead.
We don't have that.
That's okay. That's okay. I do. It's about 4,000 to 6,000 spills and 200 to 500 from treatment plants in any given year. So that's quite a bit. You're probably aware of several large spills in the last 5 years, absolutely massive spills. I assume they've been all over the news here in North Texas. So what I want to know is, that's just what I want to know. Just, do you agree with, is that within the realm of possibility, the numbers that I provided? Do you have any problem to, any reason to discount that? Okay. So knowing that and believing that, now, to the folks here, Infinity especially, what kind of generator are you proposing on this site to ensure that when there's a frequent power outages in this area, if anybody knows what there are frequent power outages, what kind of generator are you proposing, and how long will that generator allow the plant to go on during a power outage? What type of generator, do you have that?
So design hasn't been started yet, but that is something that will be accounted for in design.
Are you familiar with these half-pitch plants?
I'm not the engineer that's going to design.
These half-pitch plants don't typically have large generators. That's typically not what they do. So that would be something I would say would have if this were to go forward. Also, the other problem is that even the best generators that I have worked on, and even sadly that I've designed, have failed, which means it's not a matter of if there will be a spill. It's simply a matter of when there will be a spill. So now, knowing that, what is the plan for cleanup when there is a spill at this plant? Is there a plan in place for a cleanup? And I'd like to know some specifics, if you have them right now. Any type of specifics for when there's a spill, when raw sewage flows into stock ponds and ultimately into the river. What do you do? Is there what's the plan?
Yeah, and to be clear, I think we would disagree with your premise. That's inevitable to happen. So we disagree with your suggestion that it's.
Do you disagree with the 200 to 500 from wastewater treatment plants? Do you disagree with that number? Because that's quite a big number. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm not going to speak to that number. Okay. I appreciate the point that you're making.
So there is no plan, it sounds like.
To answer your question, I have no doubt that when the Class C operator we discussed is on board, that will be part and parcel of their responsibilities to the extent that they have a detailed plan. I don't know the answer to that. They may or may not. I simply don't know as I sit here.
All right. Thank you. We have about 4 more minutes remaining. For Q&A section, 4 more minutes remaining.
As a licensed plumber in the state of Texas, the state requires me at least 8,000 hours of job site experience to get my journeyman's. Another 2 years after that now to be able to be open business. What are the requirements for the Class C operator?
TCEQ, do you have that information on hand? Or
if the database pool, if the database pool is less than 1 entity and they did have a Class C operator, if it is 1 cleanup, then they'll need to have Type B license.
What are required?
I'm sorry, we don't have right now the requirement, but we have this separate department, licensing and occupational safety. They do all kind of, they have some exam requirements, that's what I can say, and they have to take some classes to be eligible for Class A, Class B, Class C license, just in general. But if you make the formal comment, I can definitely take a look and respond to a specific requirement for each type of operator.
Does that fall under TDLR, or does that fall under the Texas Department of?
It's TCEQ. We do that, but we have a separate.
But you don't know the requirements.
So that's a different division. The people present tonight are only in the water quality, so I welcome you to bring that up during the public comment session, and you'll get an answer on the linger hearing. You have about 2 more minutes remaining on the informal Q&A. Feel free to adjust the microphone down.
I live at 644 Sparky Cove, Wastewater. We have a well. So what guarantee can you give us? And for several of my neighbors who also have wells, what kind of guarantee can you give us that all wells are having contaminated with all this wastewater stuff that's going on? Plus, when it floods, I live downriver. So any water that's up on 1187, these wastewater pipes right there, all that stuff, all that crap, it's going to come down that hill into our area.
TCEQ, could you talk about
Yes, ma'am. So the treated wastewater is kind of same water quality of the surface water that we want to make sure is treated up to the level where it cannot further degrade an existing water quality of the recent water body. So the water is coming is exactly same quality or above quality of the existing surface water.
So I see on that map, they got a blue line, or some of that blue line saying about, because the flow is going to be going from the east to west to a pond and to the creek eventually. But when it rains, and as everyone knows here, when it rains bad, we get flooded. I have my house by the boat when it rains. And then we also read a works, and I probably found some blood up to that on the north side, northeast corner there. I own that property, that railroad property as well. Post Larka. So when it rains, anything from 1187, the hill down the hill, goes right down to our property. It puts not my house out, puts my neighbor's house out. It just goes, it's water. So I just need to make sure y'all make that in consideration because I don't want anybody really behind the ball. I don't see 1,100 homes or where they're put back there possible. If you also have a 150-foot easement, it's part of my land, that the TRWD, Texas Regional Water District, also owns. So you can't tell me you're going to put 1,100, whatever you're going to put back there, it's going to be back there. Because you got a 150-foot easement you can't touch.
Thank you, Bill. And so the time is currently 8:01. I see you too. So we are going to go to the break, but you can come up to the table during the break and ask questions, or bring it up during the formal comment period. Thank you. So the time is 8:01. We're going to take a 5-minute break, so we'll be back at 8:06 p.m. Thank you. So I'm going to begin the formal comment session of this meeting. Thank you for joining the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality's public meeting on James Gregory Kuntz and Kathy Ann Frederick, Texas Pollutant Discharge Elimination System, TPDBS, permit number WQ0016789-001. Today is Thursday, June 18th. It is 8:10 p.m. My name is Daniel Schroeder, and I'm with the Office of the Chief Clerk with the TCEQ. Before we begin the formal comment session, I'm going to ask Michael McCarthy with the Office of the Public Interest Counsel to come up and provide his brief statement.
Hello. I'm Michael McCarthy, and I'm a staff attorney with the OPIC, Office of Public Interest Counsel. We represent the public interest of Texas, and we work independently of other TCEQ offices and parties to the proceeding. So essentially, if you think that the E has failed to consider or neglected any important aspects of this application, the comment process that's about to begin provides you with an opportunity to call that E's attention. As has been noted, at the end of this session, that's where comment period ends. So if you plan to make a future hearing request and have not submitted public comments, be sure to make your comments by the end of this meeting. I have business partners. I'm happy to talk after this meeting's over. Feel free feel free to talk to me if you have any questions about procedural issues, how contested hearing cases go. Happy to be a resource. Thank you.
You're saying receive that resolution, you go online.
So
You do either.
Thank you, Michael. So now I'll go ahead and invite Representative Cook up. He has a statement here like to make.
Yes, I do. Thank you. Good evening. Thank you for holding this public hearing regarding the requested Heritage Creek Wastewater Treatment Plant TPPUS permit number WQ00167890001. To listen to the concerns for this community. It is my understanding that TCEQ has done the following. So this is the current state as I understand it. Number one, that you conducted a Tier 1 anti-degradation review of the permit application. Number two, you've determined that, quote, existing water quality uses will not be impaired. And number three, you prepared a draft permit. As you can see from the crowd gathered here with me tonight, my constituents and I strongly disagree with TCEQ's assessment. I'm here on behalf of a large number of neighbors in opposition to this requested permit. In fact, for the record, I would like to make sure the commission is aware of a Facebook group known as Stop Heritage Creek Wastewater Treatment Plant, which is 324 members strong. And I want to just share a portion of the lengthy concerns, but there are many other speakers tonight, and I want to give them ample opportunity to speak. But I just want to give you a portion of the concerns that I have with this requested permit. Number one, this applicant failed to properly notify the adjacent landowners of this permit application. And if I'm wrong with that, I challenge you to notify my office the correct information, how they properly failed to notify adjacent landowners. If I'm correct that they failed to do that, then they need to go back to the beginning of this process. They need to be required to go back and do the process correctly as intended by the state legislature. Number two, public notices for this permit application have not been made available to the public at the Crowley Public Library as represented by the applicant. Again, if I'm incorrect with this, please bring proof of that to my office and make me aware. If I'm correct, then this applicant should be made required to go back to the beginning of this process as like anyone else. They should be following the law as intended by our state legislature. Number three is incorrect identification of discharge routes. Again, if I'm wrong, bring it to me. If I'm right, send them back. Number four, water quality impacts such as flooding, contamination of retention lines and water wells, which will attract mosquitoes if standing water container treated effluent stagnants remains in place. It will be the situation that these neighbors will have to deal with. Number five, I want you to consider the environmental impacts such as endangered species, air quality, nuisance, odors, and hazardous runoff such as E. coli. Number six, there's insufficient roads for construction, and the road deterioration will result in construction if this permit goes forward. Number seven, I want you to consider the impact to local businesses and livestock in addition to the daily lives of the neighbors of this project. Number eight, please consider the permit's impact to our community's health and well-being. And lastly, but certainly not least, number nine, as indicated before, earlier this evening, there are other methods of wastewater treatment available to service this property. And I've been made aware of the second route, but I'm going to talk about the Fort Worth one in just a moment. But I understand that the city of Mansfield has entered into an agreement with the property owner directly across 1187 to build either 100 or maybe 2,000 homes. I could be wrong on the number of homes, but the point is that the city of Mansfield is right across the street, right across 1187 from this project. So that's one available alternative to a wastewater treatment plant. Number two, and I think this is very important, very, very important. I think it's probably the most important. From my perspective, the fact that approximately 5 weeks before filing this permit application, and I'm sure this guy here chose not to answer the question a while ago. I bet he knows this, but he said he doesn't know. But I'm going to make sure TCEQ does know for a fact that 5 weeks before filing this application, guess what this applicant did? Yes, they did. It's from the city of Fort Worth. They voluntarily removed themselves from the city of Fort Worth ETJ on March 7, 2025. In case number BAX25011. So just 5 weeks prior to filing this application, they removed themselves from the ETJ of the city of Fort Worth. And now, based on the TCEQ's current preliminary decision, the applicant would benefit from its own creativity by causing the need of a wastewater treatment plant by saying that they're not in the ETJ. It'd be coming here tonight and saying, oh, I don't know, they may have been in the ETJ at someone, I don't know when they removed themselves. But the fact is, 5 weeks before, I want to make sure you have those dates in the record, that they voluntarily removed themselves on March 7th, 2025, and they filed this application 5 weeks later on April 15th, 2025. This application is not brought in good faith. I'm here tonight to respectfully request that our TCEQ Executive Director, Ms. Kelly Kill, number one, I'd like you to review the City of Fort Worth case number BAX-25-001 with regard to this applicant removing themselves from the City of Fort Worth ETJ. And number two, I'd like you to reconsider and declare a preliminary decision to approve this wastewater treatment facility. In my opinion, again, this application was not filed with good faith. For these reasons, I strongly urge you to finance the needs of my community and constituents are carried out. I stand ready and willing to lock arms with these neighbors and stand against the need of the wastewater treatment plant here in the Heritage Creek area. And please know that I will do everything in my ability to prevent TCEU's final approval of the Heritage Creek wastewater treatment plant, the proposed Heritage Creek wastewater treatment plant. Lastly, thank you for your time and consideration for the work that you do on behalf of the state of Texas. And again, thank you for holding this public meeting. Please let the record reflect, I'm here on behalf of my constituents to request a contested case here at the appropriate time. Thank you for your opinion.
Thank you, Dr.
So now I'll go ahead and go through the formal comment process. So individuals will present their oral statements when called upon in the order that the registrations were received. I will be calling the individuals in groups of 5. Due to the number of people signed up to provide formal comments, there will be a 2-minute time limit to ensure that everyone can provide their statements. A verbal 1-minute warning will be provided to allow the person speaking to summarize their final statements. If you're not able to finish your statement during the 2-minute time frame, you're also welcome to provide the remainder or your full comment as written comment and turned in. Both written and oral comments carry the same weight when you consider that. Please make sure to speak directly into the microphone. Even though I called your name, please state your first and last name before starting your comments. This is because we are recording for the official record, and it will allow us to make an accurate transcript of those speaking. I apologize in advance if I mispronounce anyone's name. So the first group of 5 that I have to provide formal comments is Mark and Ann Hoagland, Jared and Angela Weinfretter, Kenneth Vaughn, Susan Schulenberg, and Matt and Sharina Wilkins. So first up is Martha Ann Hoagland.
Good evening. My name is Mark Hoagland. My address is 4209 Country Hill Road. I live 1,000 feet downhill from the proposed wastewater treatment site, and water from the proposed development area flows across my property approximately 3 feet from the back of my house. I also live 1,500 feet from Village Creek. Village Creek is Lake Arlington's main tributary and Lake Arlington's drinking source for 500,000 people of Dallas-Fort Worth. It reflects in 2016, Village Creek was designated an impaired body of water by TCEQ. As such, Trinity River Authority awarded to stakeholders to develop a watershed protection plan for the 91,000 acres watershed draining into Lake Arlington. 2019, Environmental Protection Agency approved Village Lake Creek Arlington Watershed Protection Plan. In 2024, the Integrated Report on Surface Water Quality for Clean Air Water Act, Sections 305B and 305D, Village Creek received a Pure Category 5R, which limits use. There are currently 2 wastewater treatment plants in the watershed flow in Village Creek. These 2 plants have a maximum allowable of permits of 800,000 gallons a day. One of these plants has requested to increase maximum capacity to 700,000 gallons per day. and the permits are pending approval. In addition, there are 3 new permits, including this one, under review, which would add another 1,900,000 gallons per day. If all permits are approved, this would equal 3,400,000 gallons per day, almost 4 times currently the permit levels allowed into Village Creek. Again, Village Creek was declared impaired to 2016. This additional wastewater treatment plant increases risk of an accident, which may damage surrounding property for Village Creek. The Rose Heritage Creek plant is in Fort Worth maps of potential fire water area. There's been prone flooding. This increases risk even more. I and my community may be less adversely affected by the proposal development due to the possible damage due to unauthorized spills, 2, impact or quality of life due to foul odors from exposure, airborne pathogens, and 3, impact to a primary water source in the region. I request a contested share.
That's time. Thank you. Thank you. Are you,
Yeah.
sorry?
Ann Coughlin.
And, okay, so you'll get 2 minutes as well.
My name is Ann Coughlin. I live at 4209 Countryville Road for 30 years. My land is a certified national wildlife habitat. I'm directly affected partly because my land is dedicated to the conservation of bulba pollinators, birds, and native wildlife. Any degradation to the adjacent water table or appearing zone of creek ecosystem directly harms my property's core utility, ecological integrity, and my own personal use and enjoyment. I strongly oppose the issuance of TPDES permit number WQ00167889001 for Heritage Creek. TCEQ's own mission statement says, quote, protecting Texas by reducing and preventing pollution, close quote. Allowing a new 225,000 gallon per day wastewater discharge into a watershed with a primary receiving body, Heritage Creek, is already listed as inherent, contradicts that mission statement. I'm requesting a contested case hearing and enter the following critical concerns. Worsening of an existing water impairment based on a technical package. There are other options that could be used to protect this body of water. They could limit the E. coli. They can limit the total suspended solids and the ammonia nitrogen. Loss of natural buffer and non-point source pollution. The applicant will be removing several areas of established trees for this construction and the associated mobile home development. Stripping this canopy destroys the natural forested buffer that currently filters storm water. This will accelerate non-point source pollution, carrying accumulated gas, oil, and heavy metals from the new roads directly into the Village Creek watershed. Impact on wildlife and pollinators. TCEQ is responsible for protecting the existing uses and ecological health of receiving waters. Air pollution from the activated sludge process disrupts the vital chemical signaling those native pollinators, including bees and butterflies, rely on to host plants and flowers. If the permit is not denied outright, I request that TCEQ mandate the highest possible technical.
Thank you. You can send those to me if you like, or I'll go upstairs. Next up, I have Jared and Angela Weinkrant.
Hello, my name is Jared Weinberger.
Go, step forward.
Hello, my name is Jared Weinberger. I'm at 6557 Bolivar Road. I respectfully ask that TCEQ do not approve this permit as proposed because the application does not evaluate direct impacts to my legal access, my family safety, and my property. The proposed discharge route crosses my only legal deeded access to my easement, or an easement to my home and to my property. This easement was recorded in 2020. You can see on this map here, for this permit application and for the proposed discharge route. The application does not identify or evaluate that easement, even though a discharge path crosses approximately 300 feet from my home. My property is about 2,500 feet from the wastewater plant, but the direct impact is much closer at my deeded access easement. Before approval, the applicant should be required to show whether the crossing will remain safely passable, whether emergency vehicles can reach my home, and whether the discharge will cause erosion or damage to the crossing. The proposed discharge route before it reaches Village Creek also crosses a PKD gas pipeline, and a major period gas pipeline exists. I know that the applicant knows about this, but continuous discharge and potentially cause issues it turns over that pipeline. The applicant also fails to identify or evaluate the pond my children fish there, and our family uses the pond and the surrounding land Leaving it out means another direct impact to our family's use and enjoyment of the property that has not been evaluated. I have 3 young children, 13-year-old twins and a 5-year-old. This land is a part of their home, their safety, and their future. I respectfully ask TCEQ to deny this permit as proposed. If it is not denied, please send it to a contested case here. Please do not approve a wastewater permit that leaves these direct impacts to me and my family unevaluated. Bye-bye.
I believe you guys skipped over I had written migrant or children also to speak.
Oh, I see that.
They'll have a combined 2 minutes.
Hello, I'm Audrey Wagner, and I have lived on the Quant property for 9 years, and it's a huge part of my life. I live about 300 feet away from the planned discharge path of the wastewater treatment plant. I struggle with asthma and often have hard times breathing, even in good air. I also frequently spend time around the Quant pond and breathing in the scent of sewage and chemicals daily, which surely make activities like fishing, kayaking, camping, running, and even at times breathing be very unpleasant. Please don't let this incident steal away our ability to use this property.
Hi, my name is Charlotte. The Quant Pond has many animals. We use it for clean drinking water. I've lived on this property for 9 years, and you see coyotes, geese, ducks, turkeys, blue heron, bobcats, bosses, deer, raccoons, skunks, hossens, and many other species, in addition to the opakai. These animals deserve a natural and clean environment to live. Please help me protect them.
Hi, my name is Jacob, and please don't kill my fish.
Hi, my name is Angela Quant-Weiger. Thank you for being here to assess the true impact of this wastewater plant on the residents that will live here. The discharge path into the unnamed tributary runs through my family's land. It's not a creek, it's not a river, it's not a waterway, and it has no connection to Village Creek as applied on the application. But instead it terminates in the Guan Pond, as you can see by the photos over here. This dry drainage ditch goes across privately owned property, and no water flows through it except during periods of flash flooding. This drainage area provides cover and habitats for the abundant wildlife on our property. The discharge path terminates in the Quant Pond, which is about 250 feet from my home. Our family and friends use this pond for recreation, including fishing, kayaking, camping, and horseback riding. My children spend time near the water and play along the banks. These activities create direct contact with the water in surrounding areas. If treated wastewater is discharged into this pond, TCEQ should require an evaluation of how that affects our recreational use.
1 minute.
Our horses and cows use this pond as their primary drinking source. The contaminants from the treated effluent or from the raw sewage, when there's malfunction, will greatly affect the water quality and the health of these animals. This is agricultural land, and we intend to use it as such. Native pecan and black walnut trees grow along the discharge path. Our family gathers and consumes the nuts from those trees. If treated wastewater is discharged in this area, TCEQ should require evaluation of potential impact to its crops. When I was just about my daughter's age, I began to dream of raising my children, raising my family in the beautiful setting of the Quant Pond. Well, my dream became true, but what about theirs? What will it look like if it's allowed to become a holding tank for wastewater? The lack of due diligence by the applicant is egregious, and the TCEQ should deny this permit or provide any contested case hearing.
Thank you. I do want to remind everybody that a request for contested case hearing must be made in writing and must include the physical address of your property in addition to the mailing address.
Thank you. Thank you for being here, TCEQ, and the rail representatives here for the landowners. Good evening. My name is Kenneth Fawn. I live at 6549 Stormcat Lane with my wife and daughter, Katie. Our home backs up in the property where the proposed wastewater treatment plant is planned. The said treatment plant is proposed location will be less than 300 feet from my back porch. On July 15th, I received a packet from Michelle Johnson informing me that there had been an application made for a wastewater treatment plant in my backyard. I never received any other notice before that. In fact, if you look at this map here, you look at these orange dots, there's 24 homeowners or property owners that were not notified. This application, other people will speak about this, but this application is filled with errors and falsehoods. On a personal note, I have a wife who has chronic illness. Is in the house less times in bed. Her form of, we you say, relaxation and being able to get some relief is being able to sit out in our backyard. I'm not named enough to think there's not going to be stench from that wastewater treatment. Everyone that I've ever been around has smell. I don't care what you say. I had friends that lived in North Arctic, Trinity River, I think it's Village Creek Treatment Center up there. Always smelled, especially when the wind was out of the pool. Again, I would ask that this permit be denied for a number of reasons. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up I have is Susan Schomburg.
Hi, my name's Susan Schomburg. I spoke earlier. Just have a couple more things I'd like to add. The applications for this water treatment plant was submitted in 2025. The development that costs $1187, the Parks Village Creek, has been in development since 2021. They got full water and sewer. Why that was not addressed, I don't know. That needs to be looked at, because obviously they did not look into that on purpose. Going to Mansfield ISD seems a bit far when Burleson's right there and Fort Worth is not right there. I believe that this application was not done with full honesty and disclosure. So I would like to, and I will submit online for a contested hearing, because I do believe that this needs to be addressed. Thank you.
Thank you. Next I have Nat and Sharina Wilkins.
Hi, I'm Sharina Wilkins. I live at 6537 Stormcat Inn, Burleson, Texas, which is in the Overbrook Farms neighborhood. I am also an adjacent landowner whose backyard property line adjoins the proposed wastewater treatment plant and future proposed development that did not receive a formal notification of the permit from the applicants. My formal comment is to the applicants, Kunz and Frederick, have failed to prove the necessity of the wastewater treatment plant. At the time of application submission, the property developer Pulte Homes, which is just south of FN 1187 and southwest of the proposed wastewater treatment plant, was well into the developmental stage. Pulte Homes successfully secured City of Fort Worth utilities and sewer for water for their development, Park of Village Creek, located on the south side of FN 1187. For the Pulte development, the completed City of Fort Worth utilities are approximately 1,100 feet from the actual proposed wastewater treatment plant and less than 200 feet from the property line of the proposed site and development.
1 minute.
The applicants did not provide documentation or proof in the permit application that they sought access to City of Fort Worth utilities, which would negate their need for a privately owned wastewater treatment plant. The applicants also have not proven that other alternatives, such as individual septic systems, would not adequately serve the needs of future development. It is a necessity that applicants prove a need for a wastewater treatment plant, and they have failed to do so. This is a grave error, one of the many in the permit application that TCEQ has a responsibility to address for the community as a whole.
Thank you.
Matthew Wilkins, live 6537 Stormcat Lane, I'm about 200-300 feet from the proposed treatment plant. The comment I bring forward is concerning the plant itself regarding the issue of what's technically called hydraulic overload, and how it would be planned to be addressed. For those not familiar, hydraulic overload is defined as when a system, typically the one that's proposed, when it is overwhelmed with extra water from a rain event or leaking toilets, and it cannot process the water effectively or efficiently. When the overload occurs, solid waste, liquids, volatile, treated, carried through a discharge area into a dump area outside the unit. This area will be considered Heritage Creek, which is a Lenaction Creek. and it will be in the runoff flow area in the ditch. In this case, the discharge would probably be just seeping into the ground, into the watershed, and eventually onto the pond, which is on private property. This is an example of this that is for us in the area. We can kind of the odor from this is along the Trinity River when there's heavy rains. The smell that you smell is from what is technically the hydraulic overload scenario. Thank you.
Thank you. So the next group of 5 I have is Michelle Point, Johnson, and Michelle Point Johnson and Dave Johnson. Victor Salazar, Kathy Darren Stevenson, Emily Buchanan, and Lisa McCullough and Eric McCullough. Go ahead.
My name is Michelle Glant Johnson. I'm listed as an affected person because I live 800 feet from the wastewater treatment, and the effluent will discharge onto my property. When I read the 146-page application, I noted there were 22 mistakes. The main one is the failure to properly represent the discharge route. Had TCEQ made a site visit like I'd requested, or even consult the map, they would have realized that the proposed discharge is not into Village Creek, as the application suggests, but rather into a privately owned stock pond, Quant Pond, which has many amenities for fishing, contact recreation. TCEQ should have realized and should have considered that there is no direct route for discharge to the state waters of Village Creek, as the application represents, but rather the discharge terminates in Quant Pond. Starting June 13th, I exchanged 4 texts and emails with Kathy Frederick to let her know of these mistakes. On September 15th, my attorney sent them a certified letter stating these mistakes in the application. Yet they have knowingly allowed TCEQ to proceed through the permitting process with critical misrepresentations among 21 mistakes or omissions in the application. Now, TCEQ, you have a chance to correct the situation. Reading from page 9 of the technical review summary, it states, when the permittee becomes aware that it failed to submit any relevant facts on the permitted application, or submit incorrect information on the application, or report anything wrong to the executive director, it shall promptly submit facts of information. This permit is granted on the basis that the information supplied in a reliable accuracy and completeness of the information of these representations. After noticing an opportunity for a hearing, this permit must be modified, suspended, or revoked in whole, and that's what I want you to do. According to your own rules and regulations, TCEQ, this application contains misrepresentations.
Thank you.
My name is Dave Johnson. I live in Michelle and it's supposed to be at 6501 No Levy Road. I'm an affected person in this permit application. The proposed wastewater discharge route went through a drainage ditch on our property about 11 yards from our front door. I suffer from asthma, and because of the close proximity, I've considered reversal of doubt. There are others with similar conditions in range. One of my greatest concerns is that the applicant's own projections indicate that the wastewater volumes will remain very normal for the first few years. In the first year, something like 2,500 gallons per day. It's a fraction of this swimming pool. That water's going to stay. There's no way it's going to reach Quant Pond, which is the destination, as Shell said, Village Creek. So it's going to stay here there. That's a breeding ground for the mosquitoes, all kinds of disease. There are gases, of course, associated with wastewater treatment plants. Hydrogen sulfide, rotten egg, smell, causes irritation, eyes, nose, throat, headaches, nausea, dizziness, and some individuals. Ammonia causes sharp, pungent smell, antibiotic asthma, other respiratory conditions, also bioaerosols. Now, I believe that falling short of standards on this is going to happen. And I say this because Down the road from us in Crowley, there is a Civitas wastewater plant development. Civitas is partner with CBO Ventures. I have an email from Kathy Frederick, an applicant, to my wife, Michelle. She was unable to answer your questions. She referred Michelle to Kayvon Tabrizi with any questions. He is a director in CPO Ventures. There's the connection. They have been out of compliance 4 quarters out of the last 5. They've been out of compliance on nitrogen since they started. At one point, their nitrogen ammonia level reached 350% of the allowed level. For that reason, I feel this permit should be denied, and I'll also request a prognostic case hearing.
Last time. Next up I have is Victor Salazar.
Good evening. My name is Victor Salazar. I'm an attorney with Haynes & Boone, and I represent the Quant Family Trust that owns the land and the pond which the wastewater treatment facility proposes to discharge into. There's a series of legal baubles with this application, and I'm going to speak to this from a legal perspective. The first one is kind of a threshold issue in that the applicant didn't identify Quant Pond in its application, and therefore the TCEQ did not consider Quant Pond during its evaluation. And so the TCEQ's determination that the discharge will not negatively impact the environment is fatally flawed because it didn't consider all of the eruptive facts. And so that's just a threshold issue. Second issue, as you're well aware, TCEQ can only issue a permit to discharge into a state water course. A state water course must have a bay and banks, but it also must have intermittent or regular flow, meaning that there must be some type of downstream flow connection to the state water course. Here, neither drainage, ditch, or the pond have that connection. The water flows down the ditch and ends in Quant Pond. Only during severe rain does the pond overflow, and only during that time is there a connection to Village Creek. Maybe once, twice a year. Michelle informed me earlier today that it has only run over for about 6 hours, 1 day this entire year. And so because of that, it is not a water loss. The third issue is that as water runs down and stops in Quant Pond, and the water evaporates from the wastewater treatment plant, the contaminants that are in that water will concentrate, will pollute Quant Pond. And so TCEQ can issue a permit to discharge water, but they can't issue a permit to allow a facility to deposit contamination into a private property. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up I have Kathy and Darren Stevenson. So next is Emily Buchanan.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Emily Buchanan. I'm a partner at Haynes & Boone, and I also have the very unique situation of being the daughter of the most tenacious mother in the world, Michelle Quant, who's been just spoke a few minutes ago. You probably already heard from my mom and the attorney about the concerns they have. I do want to talk about regionalization. It's just a unique and separate issue. Here's what the law says. The Texas Water Code tells TCEQ to encourage and promote the development and use of regional and area-wide waste collection, treatment, and disposal systems to serve Texans and to prevent pollution. The Texas Water Code also gives TCEQ the authority to deny a permit outright when existing wastewater service is available. On top of that, TCEQ guidance says that before a developer can even apply to permit a new plant, they have to look at every existing waterway system within 3 miles and ask those systems if they can serve the proposed development. Developers are required to document their efforts and explain why connecting to an existing system will work. Well, let's talk about what's actually happening. In its permit application, the applicant included a letter from Scipio Ventures that was sent to 2 local wastewater treatment plants asking if they could accept wastewater from Scipio Ventures. First, Scipio is not an applicant, and they're unrelated, as we've heard already today. The applicant also doesn't indicate they made any investigation into utility services provided by the city of Fort Worth, which we know has actually brought and developed across the street. Right across the street, easy to tie to the city system that currently exists. We don't need this anymore. And the applicant knew that because they voluntarily walked away from the jurisdictional territory of the city of Fort Worth just 7 weeks before their application. The regionalization policy exists to stop exactly this situation. Gaming the system with unnecessary plans to hurt the environment and burden neighboring landowners when a perfectly good regional solution is right there. Please reject this application, and I've already requested to write a contested case hearing. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Lisa McCullough and Garen McCullough.
I'm Lisa McCullough. I live at 4201 Country View Road. And this has already been addressed by Representative Cook, but I wanted to also put it out here for the record that Gary and I live next to Cape Gill, where this project is going to, has been proposed. And we've been there for 27 years. Alex is one, been married. And we were not notified of the project. We found out about it because Michelle Clark sent an informative letter using her own money to notify the residents of the Country View community. Did someone neglect to do their job?
Thank you. So the next group of 5 I have is Cindy Smiley, John and Rhonda Knapp, Chester and then Francine Woolsey, Connie Dunn and Dr. Laith Shannon. So first up is Cindy Smiley.
Good evening. I'm Cindy Smiley. I'm returning for Safe Heritage Creek, the group of concerned landowners that you've heard from tonight, a lot of them. As you can tell from the hundreds of public comments and substance of those comments, this application should not continue to be processed by TCEQ. It should not have passed administrative review, and it should not have passed its technical review. Briefly, those reasons are the failure to satisfy the basic requirements for public notice, drawing the side boundaries within a larger property. It allowed the applicant to seek to avoid identifying and therefore sending notices to dozens of landowners in close proximity to the wastewater treatment plant. This choice shows a complete lack of respect for affected landowners within a few hundred yards, sometimes feet, from the proposed wastewater treatment plant site. Even though we submitted public comments shortly after becoming aware of the application through word of mouth through the area, and we pointed out this deficiency, the second most recent notice was not mailed to these affected landowners either. The application is not clear on who owns the property and who will obtain the necessary legal authorizations to conduct the proposed operations on land that they apparently own. Instead, we have the names of 2 individuals as applicants who are curiously absent tonight, and we're left to wonder what is going on. These details should be clear, along with the need for this facility. The contents of both public notices of this application stated that a copy of the application was available for viewing and copying at the Crowley Public Library. Audience members can tell you that is simply not true. It was not there when they went to look for it, and the library staff had no idea what they were asking for. The applicant should have consequences for such misrepresentations.
Last time. Thank you. Next up is John and Rhonda Knapp.
Thank you. My name is John Knapp, and we live at 6117 Country Hill Court, less than 3,000 feet from the proposed site. Flooding is real. Our neighborhood floods during heavy rain events. Water moves north through yards, driveways, and roads. As you can see from these photos, this isn't minor puddling. It is significant flooding. Flooding has damaged property and affected homes in our neighborhood. Second, please consider the impact of future flooding on an already strained system. FEMA maps and forward potential high water risk maps are important, but they are static. They don't predict future risk under build-out conditions. More roofs, roads, driveways, parking, and compacted soil lead to more flooding. TCEQ documents themselves that heavy rain overwhelms drainage and sewer systems. This all adds to high potential risk. The wastewater treatment plant introduces point source pollution risk through its permitted discharge onfall, and possibility of an upset are all through his release. History proves that upsets occur even under the best circumstances. Plus, this residential development adds non-point source pollution risks in roads, vehicles, lawn, chemicals, pet waste, trash, and other contaminants. During heavy rain, these pollutants do not stay near the site. They move with stormwater toward neighboring villages and Village Creek and ultimately to Lake Arlington. The budget draft of TCEQ has finally been completed to assess the risks of this plant in the full residential build. As the modeling showed the downstream impact on neighboring homes, Village Creek and Lake Arlington during heavy rainfall and flooding, as TCEQ evaluated point source pollution and non-point source pollution, and as TCEQ consulted with FEMA, Fort Pierce Stormwater Management, Tarrant County, Trinity River Authority, and Lake Arlington officials on this permit. We asked TCEQ not to assume the worst. We're asking TCEQ not to expect the best. We are requesting a contested case hearing. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, I have Chester and Francine Woolsey here.
Good evening. My name is Chester Woolsey. My wife and I live at 4401 Country Gravel Road, 4, 76140. We live about a half mile northeast from the proposed site, water treatment plant, directly in the path of the prevailing wind. I have breathing difficulties with asthma and chronic congestion. The chemical odors, including methane, released by a sewage treatment plant would be a strong irritation in my lungs, causing a severe asthma attack, requiring immediate treatment. The result of this pollution will mean I cannot lay outside to maintain my yard, property, or enjoy the country atmosphere we saw at Wastewater 50 years ago. On top of the offensive odor of the sewage treatment plant generates when properly maintained, and this is another issue that we're concerned about. The installation of a sewage treatment plant would also pose a severe pollution situation when our area experiences flooding events, which happens quite frequently, with few exceptions every year. I have a large dry creek which flood the back 1/3 of my property, and I have submitted pictures to substantiate this flooding. I also share a water well with my neighbor Phil Coleman. I am very concerned that the overflow from the sewage treatment plant will seep into my water source, which my neighbor and I use for drinking and all household water purposes. Our water well is designated 6013 in the county records and is not even listed in the application, page 127, water wells. This is a misrepresentation. Sorry. Lastly, my wife and I built our forever home in this semi-rural community almost 30 years ago, not only as a place to live, but as an investment for our future needs. If this sewage treatment plant is allowed to proceed, our property values would plummet and our financial principal and growth would be severely affected, reducing the value of our property.
Sir, that's time.
I'm sorry?
It's just time. You can trim the comments and do that. Next up, I have Kahinda.
Yes, I'm Connie Dunn. I live at 4200 Pro Road. I'd like to press the contested case here. I will file that. And I would also like to state that our family was not notified as adjacent property owners as required. This is a picture of our daughter, Em, and her little service dog, Thea. Em is not able to come today because of her autoimmune disease and her immune-compromised status. My daughter has lived here at our home since she was 2 years old, is now 23, and will likely never be well enough to leave our home. We have significant concerns about the proposed wastewater treatment facility, which would be within 1,500 feet of our home. The concern is not hypothetical. It's based on real and ongoing health risks for Em, who routinely spends time outdoors to take her little service dog out and enjoy the sunshine and fresh air. If the treatment goes in, then prevailing winds from the south, which happen all the time, would regularly carry airborne particles and odors directly to our home. I have a PhD. I know how to do research. We all know what research shows. It shows that wastewater treatment plants regularly have problems. There are bioaerosols, which can include pollutants.
like bacteria, fungus, spores, viruses, and other microbial material originating from the wastewater. As a society, we often say that we measure our values by how low we protect our most vulnerable. Advancing a project that introduces avoidable health risks to medically fragile residents when the facility is not currently needed runs counter to this principle. It's for this reason that I request that TCEQ reject this application, and I would ask all of you lovely people on the platform to truly see my daughter and to hear that she is a plate and she should not have to be, and this is yet one more tragedy that she has to bear. Thank you.
Okay. Next up, I have Dr. Laith Shannon.
For the record, Dr. Laith Shannon. I live at 4313 Storm Creek Lane, an adjacent property, and I was not notified either. I do request a contested case hearing. I am a Marine Corps veteran. I was an officer. I served overseas and was exposed to burn pits. From that, I have suffered from chronic respiratory illnesses. My daughter is 5. She also suffers from chronic respiratory illnesses. In a 2025 report from the TCEQ, the Environmental Health Update, it states that in epidemiology studies, air quality is often linked to premature death, cancer, and damage to the respiratory and cardiovascular systems. For those that are unfamiliar with epidemiology, it investigates all the factors that determine the presence or absence of diseases and disorders. And the research helps us to understand how many people have a disease or disorder, if those numbers are changing, and how the disorder affects our society and our economy. Sir, I am not satisfied with the plan you have in place, and I don't think it will protect my life and my daughter's life.
I agree. The next group of 5 I have is Dr. Jared Williams, Andrew Duant, Daniel Reyes and Ryan Endy, Diane Miranda and Arnold Miranda, and Aaron Sanderlin Villanueva. So first up is Dr. Jared Williams.
Thank you. I appreciate the time. I serve as a pastor at the South Forward Baptist Fellowship. I'm an assistant pastor there. I'm affected a member of the community as well as my congregants. I also have a PhD in environmental science, and I've formally represented this area on our Fort Worth City Council. My comments are offered from the perspective of someone deeply invested in the long-term health and the planning of this community. I respectfully request that this permit be denied based on the state of Texas' policy favoring regionalization. I want to ensure 3 issues are on the record. First, the property was previously within the city of Fort Worth's ETJ and was removed at the owner's request. As its circumstances and timing of removal be made part of the record and considered in evaluating the long-term planning implications of this proposal. Specifically, I asked, was the property's prior ETJ status and removal considered as part of TCEQ's regionalization review? And if so, how? Second, because Texas law favors regional wastewater systems, I asked that the record clearly reflect whether connections to the Speak Forward's wastewater system was evaluated or pursued, and if not, by a new standalone treatment plant was determined to be the preferred alternative. Finally, if the commission's authority under current law is insufficient to require regionalization in circumstances such as these, I believe that limitations should be acknowledged so policymakers can consider whether changes to state law are needed. I respectfully request these questions and the responses be included in the administrative record. Please deny this, and I also respectfully will request a contested case. And thank you.
Thank you. The next person up back is Andrew Duant. Sorry.
Good evening. My name is Andrew Quant. I'm here today to urge you to deny this wastewater treatment plant application. I have firsthand knowledge of the property where this wastewater is to be discharged, and my opposition is based on serious factual errors and significant environmental concerns that have not been adequately addressed. First, the application incorrectly describes the discharge location. Permit states that the discharge occurs a waterway that drains to Village Creek. That is simply not true. It dead ends into a livestock pond. Discharge wheels sit there stacking. Furthermore, this ditch is part of a watershed that ultimately feeds livestock. On a working cattle ranch, the pond serves as their sole source of drinking water for the cattle raised there. This is a critical fact that appears to have been overlooked or omitted from the application. Second, even under the permit's requirements, discharge may contain contaminants that pose long-term risks. Wastewater discharges can contain substances that are not fully removed through the treatment process. Among these are the greatest concerns are PFAS compounds, known as forever chemicals because they persist in the environment and accumulate over time. These contaminants can move into watersheds, collect in ponds, and sediments and enter the food chain. I'm not even referring to bypass mode when it's in maintenance and injecting sewage. The cattle can rely on this pond for drinking water are annually sold into the food supply. The implications extend far beyond the boundaries of this property. This is not simply a local land use issue. It is a matter of environmental stewardship, agricultural protection, and public health. I respectfully ask that you consider the consequences of approving a permit built by incorrect information and to vote against this application. If you vote to approve this aerial application, you should know that the next step for a burger you or your children eat, you may have come from this sewage pool. I guess you just won't know it.
Thank you. Next up, I have Jeff Marlowe's and Ryan Endu.
My name is Daniel Rates. My sister Crystal Orr and I manage teen activities for our Church of God of Fort Worth. Our pastor, Kenneth Easy, wrote a comment on August 11th stating how our church is a spot ranch for many church activities throughout the year. We heard about the possible wastewater treatment plant that would be releasing effluent across the land, dumped into the pond. We felt the need to express how many of our activities center around the pond. We are planning a team camp out for November next to the pond. We had a Young Men Through Christian Leadership retreat weekend previously where the participants camped around the pond and had breakout sessions all under the shade trees around the pond. At one of our campouts, we had a wilderness survival hike, all in the area with effluent to release. At one picnic, we had a close-to-pin golf tournament. At another picnic, we had a fishing contest. We've had numerous Bible study discussions around the fire pit, and obviously, lots of s'mores. The possibility of having a wastewater treatment plant that will be releasing chemicals in the air and contaminants in the water will jeopardize benefits that so many of our members enjoy by having Plant Ranch Church Retreat. Respectfully, I ask you to deny this wastewater treatment plant application.
Thank you.
My name is Ryan Indy. My wife and I oversee the preteen Bible lessons and activities of our church of God Fort Worth. We had a swim party for the children at Coupon Johnson Ranch where I learned the application for a WWTP plant to be placed adjacent to the ranch. I further learned the effluent would be running across their land at any not in Village Creek, as stated on the application, but in the pond that was used for so many activities for children. I asked if there was anything I could do to protest this. Ms. Quan Johnson suggested I register my comments with TCEQ. Our church kids love going to the ranch. They have opportunities to run free, swim, pet the animals, be led on horseback, go on hay rides, play games in the field, take nature hikes, camp, roast s'mores, and fish in the pond. Many of our young children have caught their very first fish at the pond, which you can see right over there on those pictures. All of this would be in jeopardy if the air quality is damaged, if the wastewater effluent is running across the land, and if the pond is polluted with chemicals that cause algae bloom and a lack of oxygen that kill the fish. I don't believe it would be safe to have our young children around the pond that has residue of sewage. Our church pastor Kenneth wrote a comment on August 11th stating how often our church uses the Quant Johnson Ranch. I hope I have provided some more detailed picture of how it will be affected if the WWTP unit is allowed. I respectfully ask that you deny this application.
Thank you. Next up, I have Diane Miranda and Arnold Miranda.
It'll just be me. My name is Diane Miranda. I live at 4324 Storm Creek Lane, which is an adjacent neighborhood to the proposed wastewater treatment site. I just wanted a question added to the record. How will the proposed wastewater treatment plant be designed and operated so that there are no nuisance odors and that there will be maximum safety for those around?
Thank you. Next up is Erin Sandra Villanueva.
My name is Erin Sandra Villanueva, and my family owns and operates Renco a la carte products, as you heard earlier. We are a food manufacturing business that directly adjoins this development property. Our address is 4285 FM 1187, and we share more than 370 feet directly with this property line. We are an effective business and we were not notified by the applicants. We are the largest cotton candy manufacturer in the region. We've been operating at this address for more than 15 years, and we supply product all across Texas, the South, and the Midwest to hundreds of grocery stores, including Kroger, H-E-B, and others. Our direct neighbors see those H-E-B and Orchard Brother trucks come to us every week to pick up. We support growth, responsible growth. And responsible growth means intentionally planning new infrastructure so it coexists with businesses that have already invested in this community. Our operation is subject to FDA requirements, Texas Health and Human Service inspections, customer audits, sanitation standards, and quality reviews. Because of this, the compatibility of neighboring land uses is critically important. Compatibility should be intentionally designed, not assumed. It is an important part and deserves additional attention, especially when we're talking about toxins directly next to a highly regulated food manufacturing plant. For us, for example, odor management is not simply a nuisance issue. Intermittent odor events could create operational challenges. It could affect our FDA audits and create additional burdens for a highly regulated business that already exists in this location. Existing businesses should not have to absorb new operational risks created by new development that is not thoroughly vetted. And these minimum requirements were written for general use cases, not for those directly next to a food manufacturer. Just because we're not the Tysons and Frito-Lays of the world doesn't mean we deserve any less consideration. We respectfully request that TCEQ fully evaluate odor control systems, enclosure systems, sludge management, and prevailing wind restorations. I request a contested case hearing.
Thank you. The next group of 5 I have is Linda and Randy Beavers, Yolanda John, Deidre Merrill, Barry Knight and Susie Milmet Knight, and Chad Brantley. So first up is Linda and Randy Beavers. Linda and Randy Beavers. Next up is Yolanda John. Yolanda John. The next I have is Deidre Merrill. Deidre Merrill. Next is Gary Knight and Susie Miguel tonight. Pass? Okay. Next is Chad Brick.
Howdy. Can you hear me okay? My name's Chad Brantley. I'm at 6935 Redbird Lane. Redbird Lane is directly south of this property that is being proposed, or this development that is being proposed. I would say, just to start out, that the lack of informing neighbors in the specific ways that Senator Cook and others have already pointed out and were missed, I don't know how we're sitting here tonight. TCEQ, seems like those things should have been addressed, and I do hope you do exactly what Senator Cook asked you to do. If it hadn't been done, tear it up and start all over. I've been in a fight of my own for the parts of Village Creek, which you guys are very well aware of, that sits right directly across from where y'all want those all of you wanted to do. I've been in fights with the city of Fort Worth over this. And one of the things is with the developers, Pulte. And Mayor Maddie on the stand at City Council said the bare minimum a developer should do is meet with its neighbors and the communities. You mentioning tonight that they would want to meet with us, I see no intent in that. I know exactly what they're interested in, and that's their pocketbook. They have no intent to meet with us. I know you guys have a job to do, and it's unfortunate the job you're doing, because I don't do well with shallow answers like, I have no doubt. You have provided guarantees. We want accountability. And again, I know you have a job to do, but when it's in for the money and it's not for the right things, I'm all for development. This is irresponsible development. I hope and pray this is denied and this all goes away. Parks of Village Creek, by the way, for the record, that's City of Fort Worth. That was there. Mansfield ISD, whatever other entity y'all bypass that. You don't want to use it. You want to do something else.
Thank you. The next person I have is Alyssa Rue Phillips. Alyssa Rue Phillips. In that case, that is everybody who signed up to provide formal oral comments. Is there anybody who has not provided formal comments who would like to do so now? If there's nobody else who would like to provide formal comments, I'll go ahead and close out the meeting. I want to thank everyone for being with us today, as well as thank Representative David Cook for presiding this public meeting, and Senator King's office for being present tonight, as well as Representative Cook. I also want to thank applicant staff and TCEQ staff for being here tonight. As noted, a final decision has not been made on this application. The agency staff will review formal comments provided during this meeting, as well as the comments received through the mail, fax, and e-comments before making a final decision. After the response to comments has been filed, either the response to comments or a letter explaining how to obtain the response to comments. Will be sent to those who are on the mailing list and those who submitted written annual comments. I would like to state again that tonight is your last chance to provide formal comments, as a comment period will close at the end of the public meeting. But it is not your last chance to ask questions. If you have any follow-up questions, we'll be here for a few more minutes as we pack up. If there are any written comments you would like to provide or other documents you would like to provide, please either give it to me or the registration table on your way out. This closes the public meeting on James Gregory Kuntz and Kathleen Frederick Text Clue Discharge Elimination System, TPDES, permit number WQ00167890001. I hope everyone has a safe drive home and good night. Thank you.